Is over Michelangelo, and my name is Olivia Newsom, and I will be your presenter for today. We're going to start with biographical information, such as his name, his birthplace, death place, and all of those dates. His full name is Michelangelo di Latvacchia Bonarito Simoni. His birthplace and date were March 6th of 1475 in Caprese, Republic of Florence of Italy. And then his death place and date was February 18th of 1564 in Rome of the Papal States. His primary type of artwork, Michelangelo considered himself mainly a sculptor, even though he did practice multiple forms of art. During the Renaissance, all art forms were seen as being based on design or drawing. His preferred media. Michelangelo preferred sculpting over painting, and marble was his preferred medium. He was a subtractive sculptor who used chisels, mallets, and other tools to free figures from marble blocks, which is another quote throughout this project that I decided to put in here because I thought it was an important one, because he seemed very passionate about saying it. Renaissance. The Renaissance art period, spanning roughly from the 14th to the 17th century, marked a revival of classical Greek and Roman ideals. It emphasized realism, perspective, human anatomy, and the use of light and shadows. Artists sought to illustrate the natural world and human experience with greater accuracy and emotion, leading to advancements in painting, sculpture, and architecture. Renaissance is the style and time period that Michelangelo was a part of. An interesting personal fact about Michelangelo is that he lived twice as long as the average person did in the Renaissance era. He was still successful all the way up into his 70s and 80s, which is quite interesting in my opinion, because if you look at like a lot of the other artists in his time period, you can tell that they have half that lifespan. Artist similarities and differences. With first up, Leonardo da Vinci, who was timelined 1452 to 1519. Similarities. Like Michelangelo, da Vinci was a master of both painting and drawing. Both artists had a great understanding of human anatomy. Another similarity is both of them shared a commitment to try and achieve realistic presentations of the human body with an emphasis on proportion and emotion. And then lastly, for a similarity, both used techniques such as sfumato, I'm really bad at pronouncing that word, the slow transition of tones, to create lifelike forms within their art. Now, for the differences, while Michelangelo focused primarily on sculpture and large-scale works, Leonardo is more renowned for his painting, such as The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa. And then another difference is Leonardo's works tend to be softer and more ideals, with focus on subtle expression and calm compositions, whereas Michelangelo's work often displays more intense, dramatic figures full of muscular tension. Raphael, 1483 to 1520. Similarities between him and Michelangelo. Raphael, similar to Michelangelo, was a prominent figure in the High Renaissance, producing monumental works that focused on human figures. Both artists were commissioned by the Vatican, with Raphael famously painting the School of Athens in the Vatican's Apostolic Palace, and Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, which the School of Athens is one of my favorite paintings. It's just gorgeous. They shared an interest in classical themes and the balance between beauty and realism in the human form, which I also think is very important, especially to Michelangelo's works. All through it, you can really see that. As for differences, Raphael's style is more often seen as more graceful, harmonious, and idealized, where Michelangelo's are more intense, with muscular figures. Raphael's figures are often less expressive than Michelangelo's, which gives us his works a sense of calm and serenity. While Michelangelo often emphasized the power and drama of the human body, Raphael's figures tend to be more serene and composed, reflecting a more peaceful and balanced approach, which I also find very important to Raphael's works. It's just overall something that you can really see. And then lastly, for the three, Donatello, 1386 to 1466. Similarities between Michelangelo and Donatello, one of them was both of them were master sculptors who sought to express human emotion and realism in their works. They were also deeply influenced by classical Greek and Roman art and tried to revive the ideals of iniquity in their own sculptures. Now, some of the differences, starting with Donatello's style, was more grounded in the earlier phases of the Renaissance, with his figures being more restrained and often more delicate than Michelangelo's. Another difference is Michelangelo's sculptures, such as David, display more muscularity and movement, while Donatello's works, such as his David, which was smaller and more youthful, emphasize grace and elegance. Michelangelo's figures often seem to be more idealized and heroic, whereas Donatello's works have a greater focus on individuality and realism. One of my favorite quotes from really researching this project is, "I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free." I feel like that's very important just to an overall standpoint on sculpture art, to actually feel that much emotion towards your work is really important. And one of the reasons why I admire Michelangelo as an artist is from this quote. The whole quote itself was brought about when Michelangelo was asked about his sculptures and why he created them the way he did, which is another reason I find this extremely, extremely important. A portrait of Michelangelo is seen below on this page. Now, three works of Michelangelo's. Obviously, one of my favorites, the Pieta. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Its date was 1499. Media was marble/sculpture. Its size ranged about 68.5 inches by 76.8 inches. Location is St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City. Then the second is the Donitondo. It was made in 1506. Its media is oil paint and tempera. Its size is a diameter of 47.5 inches, and the location is Uffizi Galleries in Florence, Italy. And then lastly, but not least, The Creation of Adam, which date was 1512, and media is paint and plaster. Its size is 9.2 inches by 18.8 inches. Location is the Sistine Chapel in Vatican City. Now, as for the one that I chose to critique, is obviously going to be my favorite, the Pieta, which I once again hope I'm pronouncing that right. Its subject matter, the Pieta depicts the Virgin Mary holding the lifeless body of her son, Jesus Christ, after his crucifixion. It powerfully captures the themes of sorrow, compassion, and the human experience of grief. This entire piece speaks to me in a way that I wasn't really able to feel towards a lot of the other paintings, and it just captured my emotions all at once. Created by Michelangelo, the Pieta showcases his mastery of the human form using marble with focus on realism, atomical precision, and emotional depth. The piece follows the traditional Christian ideology of Mary holding the body of Christ, but is unique in its peaceful and idealized portrayal of both figures, blending naturalism with a spiritual sense of calm and grace. Now, as for description, Michelangelo's Pieta seems to convey a great sense of sorrow and grace, emphasizing the tender, almost sacred bond between mother and son in the face of death. By choosing the subject, I believe he may have been reflecting on both personal grief of Mary and the universal theme of loss, while also elevating the moment to a transcendent level of beauty and spirituality. The artist's attention to the anatomical precision of Christ's body contrasts with the calm, almost serene expression on Mary's face, which may suggest a deeper understanding of suffering and acceptance. The artwork evokes a sense of both awe and sorrow, as it captures the raw emotion of the scene while also offering a sense of peace, as though the viewer is invited to witness a moment of spiritual reflection rather than sheer despair. Now, as for my favorite part, because once again we know that this is my favorite one, I just really feel overwhelmed by the peace it gives the viewer. The sense of loss in this piece is very relatable to, I feel, a lot of people around just the world, really. I think about really any mother or son bond, just really any sense of loss is an important part of this. And I can really relate to that. The use of marble as well as just the sculpting is almost indescribable in what the emotion a viewer gets from that. And then judgment. We were asked to make a judgment based on the piece we chose to try and defend it. Michelangelo's Pieta can be defended using the theory of art as expression, as it powerfully conveys the emotional depth of grief and compassion, the tender, lifelike portrayal of Christ's body, and the great yet sorrowful expression on Mary's face, awakening large emotional response, inviting the viewer to connect with the universal experience of loss. The work transcends mere physical realism, using the form to express complex spiritual and emotional truths, making it a timeless expression of human suffering and divine love, which is another reason I really feel like this can speak to so many people all at once, no matter the background. And then I listed a few of the cited sources here. Some of them are not showing up on this, but they will be in the listed citations. So, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.